the topic of the month, decade, probably a century now. Every 100 years, we have seen a big crisis hitting humanity, pandemic related crisis. And let's not forget, every crisis have made us stronger. The question now is this crisis going to just give us negativity, which we are seeing all over, or this is our opportunity to go stronger, bolder, bigger for all humanity? And future of job in that sense is so directly related to this current crisis of COVID. So what I would do is give you some of my flavors to it. But before I do that, I just want to quickly give you my brief introduction. I am not a technologist. I am not a computer science graduate also. And I am having a luxury of working for a large technology company like Intel. And in that process, I want to just share with you as we go into the conversation, some of my own journey or some of my own navigation path of what made me reach over here. Just to give you, and I was living in Delhi earlier. When I moved to Delhi for my college, I was in Hindu College, Delhi University. That's the time I learned how to speak in English. So my journey from a very Marathi speaking central India boy to Delhi to around the world, US, I've lived in US, I've lived in Dubai, Kuala Lumpur, and now last 4 years in Singapore, is a journey of what you will see as a future of job. Uh, and that's what I want to kind of share, how jobs will evolve further as we go forward. So I'll give you some reflections on this very quickly. I'll talk about what we are seeing in job creation now and the COVID-19 impact, and then what to do. I mean, if you are all educators and you all play a very important role, especially in this new learning spaces, open universities, if I understand it, most of you come from open universities. So what does open university now do or evolve to really respond to all this? So that's what I intend talking some of these things. So yeah, let me start with my reflections. And like we are living in a very interesting times, what we call as a VUCA world, a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And this is not just politically, which you see all over, or sociologically with all the divide, the Black Lives Matter in US now. In India, we always have those issues. Very complex, very ambiguous, right? So what does it mean in terms of world around us and what it means in terms of jobs? So a lot of numbers. I do not want to bore you on number, but want to give you a bigger picture. Because of technology, the explosion is very big. So the data is growing, the knowledge is growing, right? And because of that, automation is growing very fast, right? But because of that, the disruption is also growing. The disruption in terms of industries. So Fortune 500, imagine the world's largest 500 companies, which are the biggest job creators, their shelf life, average life has shrunk from 60 years to 12 years. So a company to remain in the top 500, earlier companies used to be in that index for 60 years, now only 12 years, because that's the disruption we are talking. From a people standpoint, disruption is even bigger. 140 million people, knowledge worker. I'm not even talking of the lower end jobs, knowledge work, that is getting displaced because of robotics and all that stuff. From a skill standpoint, this means the value of a skill today has shrunk. It's only 5 years on an average. And that puts so much of a pressure on the reskilling system. Now that's the bigger point which I will make as we go into this. What does reskilling mean, right? And hence what does Open University can do and all that, right? And from your customers are students, right? Who are young students, millennials, their attention span is shrunk because they have so many devices, they do so many things. So their attention span, interestingly, is 8 seconds. Research says they listen in their brain only for 8 seconds. It is even lesser than goldfish, whose attention span is 9 seconds. So how do you communicate to your own student whose attention is very little, right? They're always chatting to somebody, WhatsApp, all that works. And from a job standpoint, in my times or your times, I'm sure, we used to think, at least my parent used to think, just one job across career of 50 years. Now, today people are saying that there will be 12 jobs on an average. So every 5 to 6 years, you have to change a job, right? So career changes and not just job changes. So amount of disruption we are talking is not going to go away. It's massive, right? Now, what does it mean? If you have to step back and ask yourself, now all this is already happening. I'm not talking anything new. What does it mean in terms of jobs? What is your reflection? What is that one thing which you would reflect on this? So I reflect this as a famous Indian chess story, as you know, right? Whereby one king who was a greedy and very, proudy, he told one person, okay, what do you want? I will give you whatever you wish, right? And the person said, just give me 1 grain of rice and double it for every chessboard. And the king didn't realize that what is the impact of doubling, right? And that's what the exponential disruption is. By the time the number of grains of rice come to the second half of the chessboard, it was beyond imagination. There's no way one king or one empire could give that much of a rice. Whole earth rice would be not enough to provide it. So that is exactly what we are seeing in exponential disruption. It is beyond anybody's imagination. The only thing which is constant is doubling of change everywhere. Nothing else is permanent. Now, if we do not understand that factor of doubling of change is the only permanent, right? Not job, days of job benefit, job security, all that is gone. If you cannot embrace this notion of change is the only constant, and change is not growing linear, change is growing double. If you do not understand this, we will be disrupted. So that is a very, very important point where we are today, right? Exponential disruption. And of course, that is possible because of science and technology. So science and technology has moved to that level whereby there is no going back across any business areas which create job. Automobile sector, content media sector, right? Retail sector, hospitality sector, take any sector of job which creates job is getting totally reshaped, totally revamped. And COVID is only accelerating that change, which I will talk later. And I can give you many examples of that. But a classical example, Uber, which we all use hopefully in India, in Delhi, world's biggest taxi company, right? $50 billion plus value, doesn't own a single taxi. It's all on shared economy. So and so forth. So that's the value of science and technology we are seeing in today's life. And there are a lot more interesting challenges ahead of us. I mean, sustainable development goals are very big, be it energy crisis, education crisis, healthcare crisis, a living crisis, urbanization crisis, slums, everywhere, right? Those challenges are big. So this requires a big human-centered innovation. So at one side, you're seeing disruption, another side, this crisis are still there, right? And on coupled with that, the inequality is in the work especially is even bigger. Now, I can only tell you how this is hurting, not just you and me, but everybody in the world, right? So pay gap, the woman pay gap, since I can see a lot of women listener in this, they can understand. Every country today have a huge pay gap of how much male get paid versus how much women get paid in work. Now, World Economic Forum says, and this is so sad, I have a 10-year-old daughter, so it hurts me if to read this, that it will take 200 years to bridge worldwide women pay gap. And it hurts me to think that women land up doing 60% of the world work. 60% of world work is done by women. Only 2% of income comes to women, and less than 1% of world asset are on the name of women. So the gap is huge, right? The inequality is huge. And from a future of work standpoint and the job creation standpoint, we have a very big responsibility to bridge this. Youth, that's another one, right? I can talk about it. And ILO talks about as a lost generation. Huge. So the disruption which you are taking, the older generation are slightly better equipped to handle it. But the young generation who's just coming in, how do they handle this disruption, inequality? Now, all this boils down to the human capital, skill endowment. And 25 to 35% of this can be attributed to education and skills. But what education? What skill? Is it conventional education or different skill? I think that's a big question here, which we will talk. And I mean, this is not going to go away. The job crisis, which we are saying, will only grow. Today, the mainstream job, the doctors, the lawyer, the professionals, that is getting automated, not just lower end jobs. So India competitive advantage of, I'm sure a lot of you have friends and family who goes into all this mainstream IT company like Wipro or Infosys. The lower end jobs, for example, the coding programming job, machines can code better than human being. So even those jobs are disappearing today. Women who do most of the front end job, for example, hotel receptionists, travel agents, those jobs are disappearing faster. So this is a big crisis we are talking in terms of jobs. But again, as I said, every crisis creates a new path for new opportunity. And automation also, in terms of job creation, create new opportunity, which is what I'm going to touch very quickly in my next section here on artificial intelligence. It's an intelligence which machines can learn on their own. It's a science, it's a technology, it's a study. Again, I do not want to bore you with what is the technology, but I want you to think differently about AI and how it will create more opportunities. Because as a teacher, I can tell you, you will understand it, the value of your skill, the teaching skill will become even more important. So that is the main point which I wanted to communicate over here. I mean, around the world, though at one side we are seeing this GDP contraction, but with artificial intelligence, it has a huge potential to bring in new jobs and economic boost. So people are saying in next 10 to 15 years, it will add almost 14 to 15% of world economy because of just artificial intelligence. And this disrupting every single sector, of course. I mean, today you all use AI, right? When you do Google, you ask question to Google, right? In your day-to-day life, and it uses AI. I think the question for a teacher is, if Google can give all the answers, what can I do better as a human being? And teachers can ask better question, different question, empathy question. And that is what jobs of tomorrow will need. Asking better question, different questions with more empathy. Those questions, that is what humans can do better when Google can give you all the answer. And so Google is an AI software. It's good in giving answer, but it's not going to be good in asking question. You are good in asking question. Now that is what our education system and University 4.0 or Open University have to figure out. How do I get my learning space reinvented to ask better question? So these are some of the opportunities which I will touch. And this is, again, as I said, disrupting every single thing. The work, the worker, the workplace, the future of work, right? In the future of job. Today, with artificial intelligence, the 50% of the world work can be easily automated. Now that is a big number. 50% of the world work getting automated is huge, right? 140 million jobs can be automated, as I said. And many of you are already working from home. So the workplace is also changing, right? That is a big change we are already seeing. So from an industry standpoint, many industries will create job, many industry will lose job. If you see some of the industries which will create more jobs, healthcare, communication, education, science, technical, right? This will require more and more human skill. And those sectors where tasks are repetitive, where it's a lower cognitive task, that will start getting automated faster. That's what research is saying. When we do a lot of research on the job creation, and that's the point which, ma'am, you said on human machine partnership, there are three big categories of jobs which will have more value going forward. And they are all music to you guys as a teachers. So these categories of jobs are called trainer category, explainer category, and sustainer category. And there are a lot of technical jobs inside it, like you can see over there in my slide. Like in explainer category, how do you explain algorithmic forensic analyst? I'll give an example of that. So when somebody goes to a bank chatbot and asks for a loan, and based on the past data, bank chatbot reject your loan, right? And the person cries saying that I deserve a loan because that's my livelihood is impacted in today's economy, right? So the human being, the explainer has to come in and really work together with the machine, human and machine to partner and really find a solution. Just leaving that on a machine or a software or a chatbot is not going to be enough. So that's an example of how empathy and explanation comes in more and more. And that is what we have to figure out, how to bring it more and more into our education system. So this is what we call as a fusion skill, what machines and human have to come together. So there are certain things which human can do best. For example, judging, empathy, improvise, lead. And there are certain things which machine can do best with data, right? Predicting, transaction, iterating, right? But coming together, that missing middle, that's where you will see a lot of new jobs coming in. So 3 words: trainer, explainer, sustainer. Those are the hottest job categories across any industry you pick. Those are the jobs which will get more and more created. So that's what we are already seeing from an AI standpoint. Now let me talk about the topic which has impacted all of us in last 6 months, COVID-19, right? So all this is fine, but COVID is really impacting all of us, right? And what is happening is, at one side we talk about AI and jobs, but the hard reality is, because of COVID, ILO, for example, is saying nearly half of the world workforce is at risk of losing livelihood, which is a very big issue. Losing livelihood is a huge issue. 7% GDP contraction because of COVID now, next few years. India, we say, I was reading the government statistics. India is, the government projection is we are probably going back by 10 years. The numbers can change, but that's the contraction we are seeing. So it puts a lot of pressure on companies and organizations and people today. So 3 out of 4 companies are planning to accelerate their own transformation now, right? Because of this. And that is what is a big hope also, because AI, as I said, will add to the GDP. So at one side, 7% contraction, but on another side, 14% expansion potential because of artificial intelligence and all the automation technologies. So the choice is ours. Do we allow 7% GDP growth, GDP loss and economy to go out, or we as an educator or education system lead to this reskilling revolution and help people reskill so that world sees this 14% GDP growth? And this is not going to be equal. So same person who loses job may not be getting back. So this is where the role of education 4.0 and universities and open university come into play, and even bigger. It's a great reset opportunity because every sector we will be seeing this. Healthcare, transportation, payment, finance, we are going to see this. So this will only accelerate change. And that's the opportunity for which we have to re-embrace digitalization in a far bigger way. Now, it's one thing to say all this, right? And you will read all this everywhere. But what does it mean to me as a professor or as a university person? What should I do to embrace some of this? And what are we actually doing and what are we not doing? I think this is where my last section and probably the most important section is. And I'm not going to be very prescriptive to say that you should do this or you should do that. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to broadly put together bigger principles which every industry is now looking for. And once you understand the principle, then you can hopefully figure out how to change in your own system. That's my intent or attempt over here. So we talked about disruption. The question is, do we pause? Do we not do anything, or we plan ahead? So fourth industrial revolution, you cannot wait because the old models are all changing. You cannot wait and really let somebody else decide. You have to disrupt yourself and your own organization proactively, right? Because your own customer, your own student base, right? They have a very different expectation. They're different generation altogether. So we have to proactively work in giving them a new experiences, different experiences. They also learn very differently now compared to how I used to learn 30 years back, or some of you have learned. I'm sure you know that. So this generation is very engaged, very participatory, very image rich, very visual in that sense, and always connected. So how do we kind of engage with them? I think that is the point here to remember. So basically this means the day of conventional learn to work model is disappearing. So remember your days and my days. We do school, we do college, we do post graduation, and then we do one job, two job, three job, and retire. So school, college, retirement, learn to work. So if from a skilling or education standpoint, engage, novice, intermediate, expert, mastery, retire, I'm the boss. Sorry, sir, those days are gone. Today we are talking about entirely new mindset which comes with learnability. What am I learning every day? How do I bring in new learning moments, learnability, right? And that continuous learning, the continuous learnability, right, will mean work to learn, not learn to work. So you may be working, whatever you may be working on as a professor, as a student, as a job, but what am I learning every day new? And how am I connecting it back? And this learning is not straight. It's not linear. It's messy. It's going to be very, very geometrical progression, not arithmetical progression. So you learn by discovering, by creating, by experimenting, by applying, by reframing, by reiterating, by assessing. And this is all mesh, work to learn. Now this means you have to create a new working environment for your student if you want them to learn, and not just create learning environment. So work to learn is a whole mindset shift. Learnability by working. Even when I'm learning, I have to work. Even if I'm working, I have to learn. So that's the work to learn the new paradigm. And this requires two new skill set, variability and sociability. I may be learning something in academics or in my medical science or healthcare or transportation, whichever discipline I'm learning. How do I extract that learning and apply it to a different discipline? So for example, I learned about inclusion as a part of rural management when I was studying in my post-graduation in IRMA in India. And now I apply my inclusion understanding to technology inclusion, digital inclusion. So learn from rural management and take it to technology inclusion. That's a variability. Those disciplines or those days of just applying it in one discipline are gone. So that's variability. And the third one is sociability, the social skills aspect, the empathy, the leadership, right? And I will talk about some of this. The resilience skills will become even more important because, as I said, the careers will need geometrical growth, not linear growth. And that geometrical growth is messy. You will have to embrace failure. Failure will be there. So you have to be very comfortable with it. And that's where to be comfortable with failure, you have to have a resilience, because you cannot have an ego driven or the older didactic instructional driven that, oh, I am pass or I am fail, I am first class, second class, third class, merit, not merit. Those models are becoming very obsolete. It's all about any employer today will check how resilient you are. Today, if I put you from a technology job and put you into economic job or a social job or any other job, right? How resilient you are, how easy you are as a person to shift, to transition. So those are the sociability issues, which are some of the new mindsets. So learnability, variability, and sociability, these are the three mindsets. Now, when you reskill and you accelerate this reskill, right? Those days are again gone when you can have your entire career by just one skill. Today, you will hear this concept of T-shape, whereby you have depth in one skill, but horizontally you learn 2-3 skills. Or the M-shape, you understand 3-4 different areas or disciplines to remain job relevant, right? So T-shape skill or M-shape skill, you can Google this term and you will get a lot of research on some of the skill portfolio, right? That's where the need of reskilling is. And purely from a job standpoint, beyond digital skill, we are talking of higher cognitive skill. So entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, all that cognitive skills, and more social emotional skills, leadership, service orientation, emotional management, social influence. Now, these are the skills which matter more. 92% of employers, I'm quoting the graph on the right side of my slide, 92% of the employers say soft skill matter more than hard skill. The problem is we do not teach soft skill enough in our university curriculum. We'll end up teaching 99% of the time only hard skill. And again, as I said at the start, the shelf life of hard skill is disappearing, 5 year. So by the time a student actually go into job and make a career, the value of that particular hard skill will change. So the hard skill will change very fast. The soft skill will not. The soft skill is so very important. And that's why it will remain more and more important. And that matters more. That's why soft skill are the new hard skill desired in a workforce. So what does it mean if you have to be a true leader, be it as an academician, professor, or a student? So these are some of the behavior shift which we need to bring into our universities and our own learning spaces and organizations and be very comfortable. From disruption anxious to be very comfortable with disruption. You will have no choice but to be comfortable with disruption. So don't get stuck with one career, one job. Be ready with this disruption. Go with open mind. So a typical example of disruption ready vis-a-vis a steady career is mother's job. The mother is the most disruption ready person. Mother thinks very differently for the kid, for the husband, for the home, and shift gears on the fly, right? But when we think about a work, we think very linear. I need to learn this, I need to do this. I need to learn this, I need to do this. Those days are gone. We need to think like a mother. Be open for disruption and evolve my answer on the fly. What I can do, what I should do. Build that collective intelligence, not just human intelligence, not just machine intelligence, but collective intelligence with human machine partnership. And not just my growth or your growth, but collective growth. And that is what will lead to this taking risk. Be comfortable with unknown and not just known unknowns. And look backward from the future. Paint a picture of success and then look back rather than just linear thinking ahead. Because as I said, it's going to be messy. It's going to be non-linear. It's going to be very, very geometric. And look solution in home. Look east. You don't have to look at only Silicon Valley or the mature markets, mature country for any solution, right? I'll give you one example. I mean, this is a real example from Delhi, the girl you see on the picture. And this is a program which I drive all over the world for a typical 16, 17-year-old to learn AI and apply AI for their own jobs. So this girl whom you see, Tanu, she's from one of the schools in the outskirts of Delhi. She learned about AI with us, artificial intelligence. She used AI technology, computer vision, to really predict onset depression among the school children in her grade 10 student. Now, unfortunately, you know what happened in India yesterday with Sushant Rajput. Mental depression is a huge problem. And it's so sad that we don't have enough systems to really get mental depression addressed. This girl actually, I mean, very timely, I'm sharing, this girl actually created a data set, vetted with psychologists, and they created her own chatbot, which are being used by the students of 6 community schools in Delhi now. When you feel very depressed and you do not want to talk to parents, you just at least start talking to the chatbot, and the chatbot, based on the alerts or the risk, will then alert teacher to say that, hey teacher, you should talk to this person. The person might not be comfortable talking to you. And now this girl, as a 16-year-old girl, she wants to become AI ethics lawyer. So this is the example of impact we want to create. So this is a program which I drive called Intel AI for Youth in India and in many parts of the world. So that's the kind of a jobs we will see more and more. But again, as I said, it requires new mindset and new skill set. It all boils down to what do you mean by success for jobs? Now, success to me, again, as I said, is not linear, right? It's going to be non-linear. Now, when we say non-linear success with resilience and grit, non-linear means 2 things. Success is basically what? Chances and choices. How many chances you can take, how many choices you bring. And this is what you have to be very comfortable. Bring resilience in your own day-to-day learning. Take chances, take choices, and bring grit. So we did this research 2 years back. which is the most important skill which CEOs around the world today look for when they look for a candidate in job, in any talent. And resilience and grit came out as a number one skill. Now the question here is, how do you bring resilience and grit in your own learning experience, in your own classrooms? How do you give them that enough opportunity to fail and then stand up and then help them recover and grow? So please remember, the role of a teacher is changing. It's not about giving solution, but it's about giving opportunity to fail to then stand up and adapt and recover and grow. So that tenacity, as we call it, right? Or that ability to deal with or to be tolerant with your own failure, that's the role of a good coach. Guide through that process and build more resilience and more grit. And that's what a good teacher will have to help students become more successful. And that's where we are saying the universities, the Open University 4.0, have to change a lot. So the traditional universities, you know, this conversation which is going on right now around the world, even some of the best, like Harvard and MIT, they're getting this question now, especially with COVID. I am anyway sitting in home and learning. Why should I pay money? So university's business model is itself changing. People are not comfortable paying so much of a money to big university like Harvard and MIT, because the generation, epic generation, their preference is micro learning platform, small learning, bite-sized learning, but learning which can connect to that work to learn, as I said, not just learn to work. And that's where bringing this resilience, entrepreneurship lab, new learning spaces, new experience, which gives entire X as a service, right? Learning as a service, platform as a service, information as a service. So students can think and build new business models, but they need a good breeding ground. So remember, you are a seed. Seed never see the fruit, right? So the seed role is very important. You don't have to think about the fruit, but you have to think about, how do I provide a very solid seed, right? The seed which really enables that fruit to grow, right? So that's the space which we are talking here. But that can only happen when you start thinking about this for change yourself. So change will not happen automatically. Change is, again, as I said, not linear. It's messy. So it's not going to happen automatically. You have to renew yourself. You have to change yourself also, right? And that's why my last slide here is, before I open up for question and answer, you have to answer some of these questions for yourself. What have you done differently in last 1 year? You don't answer it to me. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk to you personally if you are interested, through a Skype call or FaceTime call, whichever way you're comfortable, to help you answer this. But as a system, as well as the individual, please ask yourself, am I changing myself? What am I doing differently compared to last 1 year? Or am I becoming complacent with what I learned 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back? And again, as I was telling Madhu ma'am earlier, it is nothing to do with technology. It's all about change mindset. You may decide to change on anything, which is okay, as long as you are showing that resilience to your student, because they are looking up to you as a role model. You are the role model for them. So role model that change, embrace new skill set, new mindset of that resilience and grit. Change your business model. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you are changing from the old university to this brick and click with remote learning and all that, right? And last but not the least, are you leading the change or change is leading you? I think this is very important question which we have to ask. Again, when I do this with universities, I do this as a part of a deeper exercise. Today, I am just doing 1 hour session. So I'm just giving you some concepts to think at a high level. But if I ever have an opportunity to coming and visiting your university or actually talking to you and your student, we do a lot of games and fun activity, engaging, immersive experiences to really bring these provocations to your student so that they understand this far deeply and connect to their life and connect to their career aspiration, to their own jobs, so on and so forth. So that's what I wanted to share. This is my last slide, and with a quote of one of Intel founder, Robert Noyce. Say, don't be encumbered by history. Whatever you have done, whatever students have done, great, but that's history. History is very important to reshape your thinking. Now is the time to reshape, create, create something wonderful.